If you're a woman over 60 and you've noticed your hair becoming thinner, weaker, or falling out more than it used to, I want you to listen very carefully because in most cases, it's not aging alone. It's one simple mistake that almost no one talks about. And the good news is, once you correct it, your hair can stop shedding and start growing stronger again. Here's the mistake. Most women over 60 are not eating enough usable protein, especially at the right time of day. If you are a woman over 60 and you are watching your hair thin, fall, or disappear strand by strand, what you are experiencing is not vanity, and it is not simply age catching up with you. It is biology sounding an alarm. Because the truth is this: aging alone does not cause sudden, aggressive hair loss. Nutritional failure does. And at the center of that failure is protein deficiency, silent, progressive, and dangerously underestimated. By the time most women reach their 60s, their bodies are no longer processing food the way they once did. Stomach acid naturally declines with age, sometimes by more than 40%. This acid is essential for breaking down protein into amino acids, the raw materials your body uses to rebuild tissue. Without enough acid, protein passes through partially digested. It looks like nourishment on the plate, but inside the body, it never becomes fuel. Hair follicles are among the fastest dividing cells in the human body. They demand a constant supply of amino acids to remain in the growth phase. When protein availability drops, the body is forced to make a decision, and it always chooses survival over appearance. The heart, brain, liver, and immune system take priority. Hair does not make the list. So the body shuts down hair growth quietly, efficiently, without pain, without warning, until one day you notice your ponytail is thinner, your part is wider, and the drain is full. Research published in the Journal of Clinical and Aesthetic Dermatology shows that chronic low-protein intake pushes hair follicles prematurely into the telogen, or shedding, phase. This is not temporary. Over time, repeated cycles of protein deficiency cause follicles to shrink. Smaller follicles produce thinner hair. Eventually, some stop producing hair at all. What makes this especially dangerous after 60 is that many women believe they are eating enough protein when they are not. The recommended dietary allowance for protein was established to prevent starvation, not to preserve muscle, bone, or hair in aging bodies. Studies now show that older adults require significantly more protein per pound of body weight to maintain tissue, yet appetite declines with age. Meals become smaller, breakfast becomes coffee and toast, protein becomes an afterthought. And the loss is not just in quantity, it is in quality and absorption. Aging muscles become resistant to amino acids, a condition known as anabolic resistance. That means the same amount of protein that once maintained tissue no longer works. More is required to trigger repair. Hair follicles are affected by this resistance as well. Without sufficient leucine and essential amino acids, keratin synthesis slows to a crawl. Keratin is not optional. It is the structural protein that gives hair strength, elasticity, and thickness. When keratin production drops, hair becomes brittle, weak, and prone to breakage. This is why hair loss after 60 is often dismissed as breakage or fragility rather than recognized as malnutrition at the cellular level. But the science goes deeper. Protein deficiency also disrupts iron metabolism. Even when blood tests show normal iron levels, inadequate protein prevents iron from being transported effectively to hair follicles. Iron is required for DNA synthesis in rapidly dividing cells. Without it, follicles cannot sustain growth. This is why hair loss can occur even when lab results appear normal. Then there is the hormonal cascade. Protein intake influences insulin-like growth factor 1, or IGF-1, a hormone critical for hair follicle cycling. Low-protein diets reduce IGF-1 levels. Lower IGF-1 shortens the growth phase of hair. This connection has been confirmed in both human and animal studies. When protein is restored, IGF-1 rises, and hair growth improves. And yet, millions of women are told their hair loss is just menopause. Menopause changes the hormonal environment, yes. Estrogen declines, but estrogen does not build hair. Protein does. Hormones only regulate how effectively nutrients are used. When nutrients are missing, no hormone can compensate. One of the most shocking findings in geriatric nutrition research is that up to 60% of older adults consume less protein than their bodies require for basic tissue maintenance. In women, this number is even higher. Cultural dieting habits, fear of weight gain, and outdated nutrition advice have created a generation of women who unknowingly starve their hair while believing they are eating light and healthy. Hair loss becomes the visible symptom of a deeper systemic issue. Muscle loss accelerates, bones weaken, immunity declines, but hair is often the first thing to go because it is expendable in the body's hierarchy of survival. And here is the part no one warns you about. Once hair follicles shrink past a certain point due to prolonged protein deficiency, they may not fully recover. Early intervention matters. This is not about cosmetic regrowth treatments or topical solutions. No oil, serum, or shampoo can replace amino acids that never reach the follicle in the first place. The body does not grow hair from hope. It grows hair from resources. When protein intake is corrected, adequate, bioavailable, and consistent, hair follicles receive the signal that the environment is safe again. Growth resumes, shedding slows, thickness improves, but this process takes time because hair reflects nutritional status from months earlier, not days. This is why sudden dietary changes rarely produce immediate results. Hair loss today often reflects nutritional mistakes made 3 to 6 months ago, and regrowth tomorrow depends on what the body receives today. The tragedy is that most women are never told this. They are sold supplements without fixing the foundation. They are offered medications that address symptoms, not causes. They are told to accept loss as inevitable, but biology does not lie. Hair loss after 60 is not a punishment of age. It is a message, a warning that the body has been forced to ration its most basic building blocks. And when you understand that, when you realize that hair is not dying, but being deprioritized, everything changes. Because what the body shuts down to survive, it can restart when survival is no longer threatened. And that is where real recovery begins. Every morning, millions of women over 60 wake up and unknowingly set their bodies into a state of silent breakdown. Not because of what they eat, but because of what they don't. A cup of coffee, a slice of toast, a bowl of cereal, a piece of fruit. It feels light, it feels harmless, it feels healthy, but biologically it is a signal of scarcity, and the body responds to scarcity with shutdown. The human body is not designed to interpret intentions. It only interprets inputs. When the first meal of the day arrives without protein, the body does not think she's eating light. It thinks resources are limited. And when resources are limited, growth is the first thing to be sacrificed. Hair growth does not happen by accident. It is an energy-expensive, protein-dependent process. Hair follicles require amino acids early in the day to enter and remain in the growth phase. When those amino acids do not arrive in the morning, the body reroutes nutrients toward organs that keep you alive, not features that help you look youthful. Scientific studies on circadian biology show that protein consumed earlier in the day is used more efficiently for tissue repair than protein consumed later. Muscle protein synthesis, hormone signaling, and cellular regeneration peak in the morning hours. Hair follicles follow this same rhythm. Miss that window, and the opportunity is gone until the next day. Now multiply that mistake by years. Research from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition shows that older adults who delay protein intake until dinner experience accelerated muscle loss, weaker connective tissue, and impaired regenerative signaling. Hair follicles are part of that system. They do not store protein. They rely on daily supply. When the morning passes without it, follicles are left undernourished for the entire cycle. This is why breakfast matters more after 60 than it ever did before. As we age, our bodies become less metabolically flexible. They do not bounce back from deficits as easily. A missed protein opportunity is not easily corrected later. Dinner protein does not fully compensate for a protein-free morning. The body has already adjusted its priorities for the day. And here is the part that shocks most people. When protein is absent in the morning, cortisol rises. Cortisol is the stress hormone. Elevated cortisol directly interferes with hair growth by shortening the anagen phase and increasing shedding. Studies show that chronic cortisol elevation is associated with telogen effluvium, a form of diffuse hair loss common in older women. So a protein-free breakfast does not just fail to nourish hair, it actively creates a hormonal environment that pushes hair out. Blood sugar instability adds another layer of damage. Carbohydrate-only breakfasts cause rapid glucose spikes followed by crashes. These crashes signal stress to the body. Stress increases inflammation. Inflammation restricts blood flow to the scalp. Reduced blood flow means fewer nutrients reach the follicle. Over time, follicles weaken, miniaturize, and stop producing thick hair. This is not theory. It is measurable physiology. Hair follicles are extremely sensitive to metabolic stress. Even short periods of nutrient deprivation can alter their growth cycle. When that deprivation happens every single morning, the damage compounds. What makes this mistake so widespread is cultural conditioning. For decades, women were taught that eating less was healthy, that protein was heavy, that breakfast should be light, that hunger was discipline. Those messages were never updated for aging biology. But the body after 60 is not the body at 30. Older women require more protein per meal to trigger the same biological response. This is due to anabolic resistance, a condition where cells become less responsive to amino acids. A breakfast that once worked no longer does. The signal is too weak, and hair follicles receive that weak signal loud and clear. They respond by shrinking. They produce thinner strands. They enter resting phases more frequently. Over time, they fall silent. What's most tragic is that many women interpret this as inevitability. They believe their hair loss is permanent, genetic, or hormonal. They chase topical solutions while repeating the same morning mistake every day. But hair does not grow from the scalp outward. It grows from the bloodstream inward, and the bloodstream reflects what arrives early, not late. Studies comparing protein distribution show that individuals who consume at least 25 to 30 grams of protein at breakfast preserve more lean tissue, maintain stronger metabolic signaling, and show better regenerative outcomes across multiple systems. Hair is one of them. In contrast, those who skip protein in the morning and concentrate it at night experience poorer outcomes. Even when total daily protein appears adequate, timing changes everything. The body operates on rhythms. Ignore those rhythms, and systems fail quietly. Hair loss is often the first visible sign. Because hair is not essential to survival, it becomes the body's early warning system. When something is wrong internally, hair shows it externally. And the most common internal message being sent every morning is this: we don't have enough to grow. The solution is not extreme. It is not complicated, but it requires undoing decades of misinformation. Protein must arrive early, it must be sufficient, it must be bioavailable, and it must be consistent. When that happens, cortisol lowers, blood sugar stabilizes, growth signals return, hair follicles receive the message they have been waiting for, resources are available again, and when that message is repeated day after day, the body changes its priorities back. Shedding slows, growth resumes, strength returns, not because of magic, but because biology always responds to the right signal at the right time. And for hair after 60, the most powerful signal begins in the morning. There is a moment in the body when survival shifts into rebuilding, when repair becomes possible again, when systems that were shut down quietly begin to wake up. For many women over 60 struggling with hair loss, that moment begins with one of the most misunderstood foods on the planet, the egg. For decades, eggs were feared, yolks were avoided, protein was underestimated, and an entire generation of women learned to eat around the very nutrients their hair depended on most. The result was not just thinning hair, but weaker strands, slower growth, and follicles that slipped into dormancy without resistance. An egg is not just food, it is a biological blueprint. Inside a single egg is a complete amino acid profile, meaning it contains every essential amino acid the human body cannot make on its own. Hair follicles cannot synthesize amino acids. They can only receive them. When those amino acids arrive together in the correct ratios, keratin production becomes possible again. Keratin is the structural backbone of hair. Without it, hair bends, snaps, and sheds. Studies in dermatological nutrition confirm that insufficient essential amino acids directly reduce keratin synthesis, leading to fragile hair shafts and premature breakage. Eggs deliver those amino acids in their most bioavailable form, but the power of eggs goes far beyond protein alone. Egg yolks are one of the richest natural sources of biotin, a B vitamin essential for keratin infrastructure. Biotin deficiency is strongly associated with hair thinning and loss. What most people don't realize is that biotin absorption declines with age, making dietary sources more important than ever. Eggs provide biotin in a form the aging body can actually use. Then there is sulfur. Hair is rich in sulfur-containing amino acids like cysteine and methionine. These compounds give hair its strength and elasticity. Without adequate sulfur, hair becomes brittle and weak. Eggs are naturally high in sulfur, supporting the internal bonds that hold each strand together. This is why hair supported by adequate egg intake feels stronger, not just thicker. Vitamin D adds another layer. Egg yolks contain vitamin D, a nutrient directly involved in activating hair follicles. Research published in the International Journal of Trichology shows that vitamin D receptors play a critical role in hair follicle cycling. Low vitamin D levels are consistently found in individuals with hair loss conditions. Without vitamin D signaling, dormant follicles remain asleep. Eggs help deliver that wake-up call. Zinc completes the picture. Zinc deficiency disrupts hair follicle recovery and scalp repair. It impairs DNA synthesis and cell division, processes hair follicles rely on constantly. Eggs contain zinc in a highly absorbable form, supporting follicle regeneration from the inside out. What makes eggs especially powerful after 60 is not just what they contain, but how the body responds to them when consumed at the right time. Eating eggs in the morning aligns with circadian biology. Protein consumed early sends a message to the body that resources are available for growth. Studies show that morning protein intake enhances muscle protein synthesis, stabilizes blood sugar, and improves anabolic signaling. Hair follicles respond to the same signals. When eggs are eaten at breakfast, insulin response is controlled, cortisol levels are reduced, and nutrient delivery to peripheral tissues like the scalp improves. Blood flow increases. Amino acids reach follicles when they are most receptive. Growth signals are amplified. This is not cosmetic folklore. This is measurable physiology. Research comparing protein sources shows that whole eggs outperform isolated protein supplements in supporting tissue repair because of their synergistic nutrient profile. Hair follicles do not thrive on isolated nutrients. They require a network of signals working together. Eggs provide that network naturally. Cooking method matters. Overcooking eggs damages heat-sensitive nutrients like biotin and certain amino acids. Soft-boiled, poached, or gently scrambled eggs preserve their nutritional integrity. This is not about preference. It is about preserving biological value. Fat matters too. The nutrients in egg yolks are fat-soluble. Eating eggs with healthy fats improves absorption. This is why pairing eggs with olive oil, avocado, or natural butter enhances their effect on hair health. Without fat, key vitamins pass through unused. Consistency is the final piece. Hair growth does not respond to occasional nourishment. It responds to patterns. Hair reflects nutritional status from months earlier, not days. Women who eat eggs sporadically often see no change. Women who eat 1 to 2 eggs every morning consistently create a new biological baseline. Over weeks, shedding slows. Over months, strands thicken. Over time, regrowth becomes visible. And here is the most overlooked truth. Eggs do not just support hair. They support the systems that decide whether hair is allowed to grow at all. Muscle mass improves. Metabolism stabilizes. Hormonal signaling strengthens. The body exits survival mode. When the body feels safe, it grows hair. The fear of eggs was never based on modern science. Large-scale studies now show that egg consumption does not increase cardiovascular risk in healthy individuals. In fact, eggs improve lipid profiles when consumed as part of a balanced diet. The cholesterol myth robbed millions of women of one of the most powerful regenerative foods available. Hair loss after 60 is not a life sentence. It is often a nutritional negotiation the body has been forced to make. When eggs return to the plate, whole, respected, and used correctly, the negotiation changes. The body stops rationing, the follicles stop shrinking, the growth cycle begins again. Not because of promises, not because of trends, but because biology always responds when it finally receives what it was missing.